Joining us now, Congressman Hank Johnson, representing Georgia's 4th District since 2007. Congressman Johnson, what was your initial reaction to the events between the United States and Venezuela?
Anger. To attack a sovereign nation, to bomb a sovereign nation, and then to kidnap its leader and take that leader away is shocking to me that our government would be engaged in this kind of imperialism at a time when America's taxpayers are hurting, prices on the rise, and they were told when they voted for Donald Trump that he would extract us from war, not put us in war. And now it seems like every day there is a new provocation against some country by U.S. military forces. And now we have invaded a sovereign nation and are pledging to take that nation over. Regime change. It has never worked, and it won't work this time, and I'm just angry about it.
President Trump talked about what he called a spectacular attack in the dark of night to extract President Maduro and his wife. Had you and any others members of Congress had any communication from President Trump about this? Did anyone in Congress know that this was going to happen?
Apparently, there was no notification of Congress that there would be an act of war instituted by our military. And had it been, had this administration followed the law, it would have done just that. It's Congress that declares war. And this is an act of war. It's something that Donald Trump chose to do, but he did it without congressional congressional authorization. And to that extent, it's unlawful. But it's also a violation of international law to invade a sovereign nation without cause. There's been no attack on the United States. They haven't done anything to us, but yet we have invaded that country. It's like we embarked upon a crusade to make Venezuela great again. That's not what Trump was elected to do in America. And I resent it, and I know a lot of Americans share my views about it.
There has been a lot of conversation about kind of the atrocities and oppression President Maduro put on the people there. However, a lot of conversation about whether or not it's something the United States can do to bring him here for crimes the president's saying against the American people related to alleged drug trafficking. Talk us through your response to that part of the argument as an impetus to go into that country.
Well, it's obviously not about drugs and drug trafficking. It's about oil, gas, and other natural resources, i.e. Rare earth materials, rare earth minerals that are found in that sovereign nation. And so Trump wants to take over that nation so that he can be in control of the world's greatest oil reserves. In other words, Venezuela has the most oil reserves of any other nation on the planet. It's number one with respect to oil reserves. And Trump wants to control those reserves, and he wants to capture those rare earth minerals so that we're not as dependent on China as we have been for rare earth minerals, or in the Middle East for oil from Saudi Arabia. And so he wants to capture all of that within the Western Hemisphere and rule over it like a king. And the indictment of Maduro in New York, the recent indictment under Pam Bondi's leadership, serves as a pretext for going in and capturing this man and bringing him back to American soil to stand trial. He had already been indicted down in Miami, but you indicted him again up in New York, and nobody trusts a Justice Department under Pam Bondi. She does exactly what Donald Trump tells her to do. And this has Stephen Miller's handprints all on it. It stinks to high heaven. it's doing nothing to solve the problem of high costs and affordability for Americans. And in fact, it's going to cost us treasure to go down there and occupy that sovereign nation. And it really angers me.
Yeah, President Trump saying today that I think his loose quote was that we'll run things until there can be a new just leader put in place. That's your reference to going in there and running things. Obviously, we're living in a very divided time, partisan politics divided extremely right now. I'm curious what conversations, if any, you've had with your colleagues in Congress, perhaps on both sides today. Do you get a pulse not only for your fellow Democrats, but Republicans as well to reaction since Congress was not part of this decision?
Well, I had the good fortune to be in the barbershop at the time that Donald Trump was conducting his press conference. And it was interesting to listen to the comments that were being made in the barbershop. And, and I'm sure that those comments, which were that this is all about oil, this is not about drugs, this is about oil. And, I'm sure that the American people are feeling that way, and they will let their representatives know, many of whom are frozen in fear, not wanting to do anything that would displease their dear leader, Donald Trump. I know many of them will not say a thing, but I'm sure that my Democratic colleagues are united in insisting that Congress exercise its authority as a co-equal branch of government. We've passed the War Powers Resolution, which requires congressional notification. There's been no congressional authorization of this act of war. And I know that Democrats will be, when we return next week, we will be seeking answers, and we will be trying to prevail upon our Republican colleagues to stand up for Article 1, the legislative branch of government, and exercise the prerogatives and power that we have. The fact that we have not has led Trump to do what he has done, and we can't continue to allow this to happen.
That conversation about the balance of power. So what is your expectation about the what's next, particularly because we heard the president talk about the possibility of a wave 2 in Venezuela?
Yeah, well, I think he's sending a signal to the people in power in Venezuela that they need to leave town immediately so that he can install his puppet regime, which will then control the resources of that country to benefit Trump and his corporate friends, as opposed to the people of Venezuela, who, by the way, they have a $3,900 per year per capita income. It's a poor country. These are their resources that should be going to enhance their ability to live, and instead, it's going to go into the hands of the billionaires, and the American people are paying the cost of that military adventure. And perhaps there may be some Americans who, or boots on the ground, who end up losing their lives because this president wants them to defend the billionaires' ability to make more and more profits. He just sees nothing but profits, and that's all that this escapade, this war, act of war, is all about.
President Trump did say in his remarks today that no service members were killed in this operation overnight in Venezuela. Congressman Johnson, will you just, before we go, walk us through your expectations about what happens next in Congress when you are all back together, in terms of any recourse, message you send to the administration? What happens next from that legislative branch of the government?
Well, unfortunately, under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson, or I should say Vice Speaker Mike Johnson, because Donald Trump is acting as the speaker, I don't really see much happening. I see business as usual, passing bills that have nothing to do with affordability and making life better for the American people. No, I do see a vote next week on the discharge petition that has been filed and has been signed, 218 signatures, that will force a vote in the House on restoring the Obamacare tax credits that make insurance affordable under the Affordable Care Act. I do see us voting on that next week in the House. But anything related to overseeing, we'll probably have a briefing by the administration, but only because the administration chose to come and brief us, not because Mike Johnson demanded on behalf of the majority in the House that they come to the House and give us a briefing. So, unfortunately, I see a lot of progress under Speaker Mike Johnson. But I do expect Democrats to be clamoring for what we should be doing as a co-equal branch of government, Article 1, the legislative branch, which is oversight, briefings, and accountability from this administration for its lawlessness.
From where you sit, you've been representing Georgia in Congress since 2007, so under a number of different administrations. Can you, for people who may not have kind of a contrast, is there another example of a military operation you can think of as you've been part of Congress where there was a different kind of communication? How is this different than other of the many administrations that you've served with and alongside?
Well, I mean, when George Bush sought to invade and take over and occupy the sovereign nation of Iraq, he came to Congress and got congressional authority for it. And we saw what a horrible legacy that established and left. We got bogged down in a country that we removed the leadership from, and then we owned it thereafter, and it degenerated into a ISIS and Al Qaeda, and destabilized the entire region. And we are still bogged down in Iraq. We did do the same thing in Afghanistan, got bogged down, but we ended up leaving. But that occupation was not successful. The installation of a puppet regime in those two countries, those escapades were not successful. And here we are doing the same thing under a president who did not come to Congress to get authority to invade a sovereign nation. So it's a tribute to the recklessness and illegality that has marked the first year of this current administration. And it looks like it's going to continue.
We're hearing from both sides today, Congressman, here in Georgia, some saying Maduro was a dictator, someone needed to help the people of Venezuela. When you kind of pull back, is there a wider view you'd like people to consider in terms of what's happened and the implications moving forward?
Well, I'd like people to know that Putin is an illegitimate leader, but yet our leader cozies up to him and lets him do whatever he wants to do, including perpetuating the invasion of a sovereign nation, Ukraine, without any pushback from the United States of America since he's been in office. And so, what we have is a two-faced leader who's only concerned about profits and making money for the rich, for the wealthy. That's the only picture that I can give to the American people at this time. We are under his authority, and that authority and that misuse of authority is being aided and abetted by Republicans in Congress who control Congress, MAGA Republicans. And so they are doing a disservice to the Make America Great Again cry of the MAGA loyalists. They're doing a disservice to it. I think they will lose support, and it will help to unify the American people that we need change. We cannot allow these wealthy oligarchs to continue to make decisions on the future of our nation and the future prosperity of its people. It's not working out for us, and I predict that there's going to be some changes made when we come upon election time in 2026. This is an election year, and the people do have the power. The power still rests with the people, and I think the people are going to do the right thing. This does not help the Trump administration; it hurts it.
Well, that was perfect timing. We had just finished. So thank you so much, Congressman.
Yes.
And I do look forward to hearing more, because I think a big question the American people have is, does Congress have any recourse if, especially surrounding the question of was this constitutional, is this legal, and that balance of power question that I think, there'll be a lot of conversation about.
Well, it used to be in this country where legislators respected the executive branch and the power and authority that resides within that branch, and the executive branch respected the power and authority of the legislative branch as the Article 1 branch of government, with all of the enumerated powers, and the president having the primary power of making sure that the laws that passed Congress were faithfully executed. And so while the executive is the commander-in-chief and commands the armed forces, the commander-in-chief also respected legislative authority within that realm. And so what we have now is a president who does not respect the ballot, the checks and balances system. It's a delicate system upon which overall power in the country is based. The legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch, those three branches acting as a check and a balance on each other, and each branch respecting the power and the authority of the other branch. And that's the way that it has worked for the last 249 years. But as we are now in this 250th year, we see a president who has no respect for the system of checks and balances. And we have a Supreme Court that has been packed with MAGA conservatives who, which allows the president, which even granted this president immunity from prosecution, putting the concept of no man is above the law in the wastebasket, and making this president and future presidents more powerful than any other person, and making that institution of the presidency, the executive branch, more powerful than the framers of the Constitution intended. And it has upset the system of checks and balances. And as a result, we have a out of control president who is havoc on national security and on global security. And it's very frightening, the power that is being used by a dictatorial oligarch who's enriching himself and his friends in the process. The corruption that is taking place is profoundly disturbing, and what is happening to our democracy is quite disturbing. And so, yeah, what can you say?
Congressman Hank Johnson, representing Georgia's 4th District, really appreciate the time and the insight, and look forward to staying in touch as the legislature gets back into session and we kind of hear the next conversation coming out of Congress. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you.